Hi. In this country, and especially here in Texas, we like to think that freedom is an important value to us. But what you may be surprised to know is that 1 in 30 people in this country are currently under supervision by the criminal justice system. That means that if this room represented Texas, we'd have 1 lawyer sitting over here, 1 doctor sitting over there, but then we'd have 6 of you currently incarcerated. We'd have another 20 of you under supervision on either probation or parole, and 75 more of you would eventually encounter the criminal justice system. If we take a look at the trend of how our prison population has grown over time, it's really an unbelievably shocking trend. In the 1980s, there were less than 500,000 prisoners in this country, and fast forward 30 years, there's over 2.3 million people currently incarcerated in the United States. 2.3 million. That makes us the largest jailer in the entire world. And those numbers don't include the 8 million people that are currently on probation and parole. So how does this compare internationally? If you take a look at this graph, you can see that no one else comes close to us. Not only do we incarcerate more people than anyone else in the world, but we also incarcerate people at a higher rate than anyone else in the world. And Texas specifically, we incarcerate people at twice the rate of Russia and almost 4 times the rate of most other countries we would consider to be authoritarian, like China, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. So the question is, how did we get to this point? Now, you've heard some that we have a huge mental health problem in this country that fills our prisons full of people that need treatment. We can also look at the war on drugs. We can look at the proliferation of statutory crimes. We can look at tougher sentencing. But what I really want to focus on today is recidivism. 2.3 million people in our prisons. 60% of them, when they are released from prison, will return, be rearrested, and be reincarcerated within 5 years of being released. So that really begs the question, why do we fail at rehabilitation? Our prisons are not preparing people for reintegration into society. So really, I want to give you 3 real reasons to think about why we are so terrible at rehabilitation. The first reason is that our prisons are dehumanizing. Not only do we take someone, lock them away in a concrete box, surround it with fences and barbed wire, but then we also tell them that they are a criminal. We tell them that they're a bad person, that they're a deviant, that they are not as good as other people. When that happens, people begin to not care what it is that they're doing in the outside world. They consider themselves to be criminal because they've been told they are for so long. The second reason that we fail at rehabilitation is our draconian sentencing laws. We sentence people to decades in prison on a very regular basis, whereas in the rest of the world, well, at least South America and certain parts of Europe have adopted a 21-year maximum sentence for almost any crime. The reason they've done that is because the data shows again and again that deterrence is not affected by the length of a sentence after a certain threshold, which means a 5-year sentence for a specific crime doesn't deter anyone any more than maybe a 2-year sentence does for that crime. We sentence people to more years than anyone else in the world. The third real reason that we fail at rehabilitation is the fact that we don't prepare people for the outside world. And what I mean by that is we don't give them any skills or training necessary, and we set up institutional barriers for them once they do get out. So when people are taken out of their communities and put into prison, there's essentially no mental health treatment, no drug treatment, no ability to obtain job skills that will help them in the outside world. Then when they do get out, not only are they not allowed to vote to change the system, they're also prevented from participating in government programs and jobs, and they're required to spend their time and money reporting to supervisors with the ever-looming threat of reincarceration. So the question is, what can we do to solve these problems? The answer is not to go on vacation like this guy, because this guy's not on vacation. This is a pupil in the Bastoy prison island, located about 200 miles south of Oslo. Now, notice that I said pupil and not prisoner. The idea in Norway is that, one, we're going to create open prisons that mimic more of the outside world to decrease that stigma or decrease that dehumanizing aspects. We're not going to call people bad people. We're going to talk about the bad choices that they've made, and we're going to prepare them for reintegration into the outside world. So before we ever talk about taking these kind of programs and putting them in the prisons that we have here in Texas, we need to know if they work. As I've said before, 60% of people that leave our prisons return to them within 5 years. Texas is a little bit better than that. We're about 55% depending on the data you use. Norway, in these progressive prisons, is at 18%. That's a third of the recidivism rate, which is astonishingly low around the world. So we know that these work. We just don't know exactly which factors in which prisons are the best and which ones would work for us. So we have to study them and try to realize what it is we can learn from these prisons and how we can use that here. So what we have here is a photo of a standard prison cell in Texas. As you can see, no windows, double occupancy, zero privacy, completely dehumanizing. Second picture here is a prison cell in Norway, which really looks a lot like my college dorm room when I first moved to Austin. As you can see, there's TV, they have open window and privacy. No one else lives with them, which is a great aspect to the way these prisons are designed. Not only that, they're designed around these central common rooms. So there's 4 or 6 prison cells that all feed into a central common room where people can live similar to a small community. And they can be grouped based on their career goals, their rehabilitation goals. If they have certain kinds of problems that one person can definitely help the other person with, the prison can put them together in those small groups. Then if we take a look at this other slide, we can see this is a photo of a prison yard in West Texas. As you can see, there's absolutely zero regard for how the environment affects the behavior of people and how it dehumanizes them and tells them that they're bad people. If you look at this picture of part of the prison yard at the Halden high security prison in Norway, you can see that they use green spaces to try to take their surroundings and internalize that and come back out in a worse way than they ever were when they first came in. And at the island prison that I showed you earlier, they don't even have yards, they don't have prison cells at all. Each of those people lives in a house that they have been assigned. They're in charge of taking care of all of the maintenance and all of the landscaping for those houses. As you can see in this picture, they've taken all of the old prisons in Norway that used to be more like our traditional prisons, and what they've done is turn them into complete mental health and drug rehabilitation programs. So these are hospitals. They've turned all the old prisons into hospitals, and now they have these new open prisons that are amazing. They use all kinds of green spaces to decrease the dehumanizing aspects. They teach people skills like agriculture, culinary arts, fishing, boating, timber logging, all kinds of livestock maintenance, ground-up construction, carpentry. Recreation at these prisons takes inmates and guards, puts them together, and has them essentially act as peers and mentors to one another so that there's growth and not a feeling of oppression. They have recording studios and medical training facilities. Not only that, they have technology-based classrooms, amazing libraries, and multi-million-dollar art installations that also kind of make them feel a little better. The people who study these prisons, though, have a problem with this, and they say America's not psychologically capable of letting institutions like this exist. Generally, the objections are, those guys don't deserve that, or I don't even live that well, or we should be spending our money in better ways. But the answer, the real truth about that is that we're already spending this money anyway. Right now in the United States, we spend about a little less than $40,000 per prisoner per year. In Norway, in American dollars, they spend about 3 times that. But if you adjust that for the price index, we only spend about 15 to 20% less per prisoner than Norway does for their great programs. So the real issue is that we're already spending the money. We should be getting a better return on our investment by reducing these recidivism rates. Thank you, and hook 'em horns.